What's up guys, Sub-Zero here, back for another VOD review. Today we got something a little different. This is Jazlatte. If you guys haven't seen him, he's an absolute monster on the Taiwanese server, currently rank 1. Look at that beautiful graph and that beautiful last 20, 2.5 ABP. This is at the top of the server, only a few bot force and they're all fits, which is pretty crazy. He's actually currently ranking up an account on the Chinese server. He's currently like 500 LP or something like that, but I want to get a sense for, how Jazlatte plays, how he is such a beast. Let's screenshot this real quick and auto-translate it to see what portal that we're in. And also, I had somebody say that, I've been watching so much NA recently. This says it is called Golden Journey Emotional Swing Expert. Oh, I guess that's the name of the player. That must be one of the gold ones, where maybe all the augments are gold or something like that. I guess we'll see. Probably that, unless... Wait, did he just get the duplicator? I was busy translating. He got the duplicator. Yeah, okay, he got that off minions. So that was not, because it's a golden duplicator. I thought. But yeah, people, someone was like, we've been watching so much NA, we need to go back to some non-NA VOD reviews. And honestly, I'd love to do some Chinese VOD reviews as well. The hard part about that is that a lot of the Chinese VOD websites, a lot of people have moved over to Bilibili for hosting a lot of their VODs. And oh my god, that's a Zyra too. And it's really, really hard to, when you watch a VOD on the Bilibili website, if you don't have an account, it makes it like auto-locked 480p. It's like basically terrible. And also, the way to make an account on Bilibili, it's very, very difficult for foreigners. So all of this to say, if you know how to make an account on Bilibili, then let me know, because I would really, really like to know how to go about doing that. We take the You Have My Rod augment here with the Zyra 2. I like this a lot. We like the AP onto Zyra. We're going to take the AP from Kale. Just play a solid Storeweaver board here with the Zyra 2, and this is already a fantastic opener. Slammed the Crown Guard immediately onto the Garen. I think just because he wants to keep these components open, because I feel like, well, in some ways, the most obvious thing would be something like a Death Cap onto the Zyra and just make that. The downside is then you have no frontline, and I think the idea here is that Crown Guard is actually going to provide us in some ways more effective damage than the Death Cap, in just that it's going to provide us extra frontline, which actually kind of makes sense. I like it. From here, we are getting a component off of Shen, and also this is the one where we could select, yeah, so we basically selected this must be Wardens here, yeah, and so we select Wardens here, get a belt, which is not amazing, though it could end up being a Morello, and the big thing is that we get to play around this Alawi. We also have this Jax too if we want it. It looks like he's more interested in playing around the Alawi here. I kind of love this, yeah, and then we just make the Morello here. Fantastic slam. Yeah, I kind of love this. Even though it's a Jax 2, Alawi is just such a good holder of AP items like this, like the Crown Guard here. So yeah, we're gonna play around Alawi 1 over Jax 2, which I think makes perfect sense. And then we make the Morello. It's a little weird, but you do it every time. You'd be like, well, Zyra already has heal cut on her ability. Why are we making a Morello onto her? But the big thing is that she's going to item hold Morello for another unit later game. Either a Hwei is like the ideal, or like a Morgana is like the more reasonable level 8 type board. So yeah, it's really just what you end up getting to late game. But Zyra holds on to it fantastically because she likes the AP, she likes the attack speed, she's going to be your item carry, so that's just the world that we live in. And, it allows her to apply it on her auto attacks, which is pretty cool. Pre-level here, because we can't make 10. We are a little bit broke, but the pre-level can maybe allow us to hit something really, really nice. We'd prefer a Shojin here over everything, but the tier gets taken immediately. So what do we actually go for here? Just like a frontline component? I like that belt Amumu here. If not that, then the cloak. Yeah, he's just going to go for the full-on cloak for the idea of it being Ionic Spark here. I could certainly see that. I like that a lot. It's a little bit, obviously, less gold than the Amumu, but cloak is cloak. It's actually, there's so many good items it could be. It could be adaptive helm as well. I think it's a much higher priority item than belt in this comp, now that I think about it more, especially because we already have the Morello. So now that I think about it, yeah, I think paying 1 gold to get cloak instead of belt actually makes perfect sense from Jazlatte's perspective, because he's looking at potentially just a Sage into Fast 8, Fast 9 type game. Really just what the game allows you. We're already on a pretty strong win streak here, so maybe we could be looking at a Sage Fast 9 game. If not, then, Sage Fast 8 play around Silas and Morgana is perfectly acceptable. So yeah, we're gonna make 20 this round. I mean, holding the Zyra would be kind of fun, but ain't no way I'm spending all this gold holding onto the Zyra when I could just have a good board. Also, speaking of a good board, my god, look at this Adaptive Helm Gnar, by the way. That's gonna go onto Syndra later. This guy's got one of the most insane spots I feel like I've ever seen for this Syndra comp, where they already have blue buff Nashers and Adaptive Helm made, and they have fully adapted in this spot. That is, I don't know what to say about that. That is absolutely insanity. But that's a comp that I talked about a little bit in my last video, where we kind of saw it in action. We didn't completely see it in action, but that comp has been tearing up the ladder recently. This Dryad faded comp. Everybody, any chance they get is playing around that comp. Ooh, that is a Riven 2 we're very, very happy with. And we just want a slammable item here. Ooh, okay, so the only downside to this spot is that we don't really hit anything slammable in this spot. Guard Breaker would be your only choice if you wanted to slam something. But, you know, don't want to make an Even Shroud, don't want to make a Stair Axe, don't want to make, what are other options, a QSS or an IE. So we might just sit here on a bunch of components. Wow, the early level from Jazlatte here just to get Arcanist in with the Lux. He does end up just making the Guard Breaker. Okay, I kind of like it. It's not, I would say, like BIS. It's a decent enough item on Syndra, because she'll, or not Syndra, but, well, I mean, it's okay on Syndra. On Morgana is what I was thinking, but the big thing is that we're playing for Streak. We want to do as much damage to people as possible and to maintain our win streak in this spot. Martyr is a pretty good general augment. Love the no Tailor from Jazlatte here. This is something that you have to do, which Riot was supposed to take out of the game, but then I think they accidentally added it back into the game, where before you reroll your augments, you need to take units off of your board, or, you know, like, for example, if he wanted Storyweaver crest here, he would just take out the Ghostly units and the Warden units and just keep Storyweaver onto his board, so you can tailor your board before you reroll your augments and then reroll them and get different stuff. So that's a really nice, just kind of, I guess I would say easy tech, but it's also not easy because you just have to remember to do it every time, which is a little bit annoying, but a really, really nice tech that can increase the odds that you actually get the augment that you are looking for. In this spot, he doesn't want any kind of tailored augment, so he just takes everything out so that he can't get any of the emblems or anything like that, and it allows him to roll for more combat augments. We end up on the Martyr anyway, but hey, we could have got a even more solid combat augment. Also, I didn't even realize, but looking at the names on the right, the first place in this lobby is Flancy. This is the upside, I guess, to playing on the Chinese servers, that you have Flancy in your lobby, one of the best players in all of China. I didn't see the rest of the other players in the lobby. Maybe I'll look at it after he turns off this damage chart thing, but maybe is anyone else? Well, I can't read any of those names, but hey, maybe those are great players as well. Extra defensive component on all units on this carousel. We'd love, 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 like I was talking about, to pick up a tier. A rod is also really good for Spark. So I think we'll go for this tier if we can, but we can't, so we're just going to take belt plus chain here. I'm curious what this actually ends up being. I mean, I think they're reasonable defensive components for sure, but do you want to make something like a gargoyle here? Yeah, he has to think about it for a while, because the Gargoyle Slam, it makes sense from a win streak perspective, but from an item economy perspective, we're losing our Spark component, which feels really, really bad. We might not be able to get to MR Shred this game if we slam this. I think we should have at least waited to see what the fight was going to be. This person that we're fighting does look pretty strong, so I don't blame him for making the Gargoyles here. But, you know, one of those things where you can wait just a little bit to see this fight and then slam based on it. Sadly, we do end up losing this fight, so we finally lose our streak at 3-5. Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate how that fight ended up playing out. Ari here is going to allow us to... Oh, it's the extra player health one. I was like, I thought this was the Ari one that like buffed units or something, but this is the extra player health one. So we're back up to 100 actually. Flancy's at 110, so good for him, I guess. But yeah, I mean, still 100 HP, level 7. We're not rich by any means. We're not broke. I would say we're like average or slightly above average econ from our win streak, though we didn't end up making the Zyra 2 so early that it made it kind of hard for us to make a ton of gold during the rest of the stage. But yeah, I mean, upside is our board is still really, really strong. With a few notable upgrades, we could actually potentially 9 on this board just because of the strength of Zyra. We would need like a Lowy 2 here, plus just one unit that you would want on the board. Silas is like usually the addition. In this spot, we could even add like a 5th Storyweaver and use that to push levels. But I feel like that's what this patch is all about. I've talked about it a good bit, about recognizing spots that you can go 9 in, because it's not an easy, it's not easy to identify that. We do pick up a duplicator here and a tier, so that's the Shojin and the Alawi 2, which is fantastic here. And now he's going to start building out this this board. This looks like me playing. This looks like me playing. Just put those units into his team planner. Actually, let's go back and look at it just real quick, what he puts into his team planner, because he actually likes the Diana on this board just for Sage, which is kind of interesting. I feel like normally I just leave Diana as like a +1 slot, but he throws Diana in there. I mean, she's Sage, so she's probably the most obvious slot, but you know, you'll play a lot of units over Diana here. If you can put a random Hwei onto your board. Obviously, if you hit some really good 5 costs like Rakan or like Wukong, then those can go onto your board. But yeah, Diana's probably the good default. Okay, wait, what the heck is that? He puts it into his team planner and then maybe thinks better of it. I don't love reinforcement too much as an augment. You actually have a lot of traits in here, so I don't dislike Stand United either. Oh, and he forgets to tailor for a second, now he retailers, which yeah, it just goes to show it's a little bit of a annoyance factor. Is that anyway? And we can get porcelain in here with the Amumus. This actually fits decently. It's a 3rd warden, so it's kind of funny, but yeah, I think Jazlatte in that moment, he said, you know what, I'm going 9 this game. He said, after I won that fight, my board is strong enough, my HP is high enough, and my econ is high enough, and my board is strong enough, which I already said, that we can actually just go 9 in this spot. We don't have to roll on 8. And I love this from Jazlatte, especially when he got dropped the duplicator and was allowed to put the Alawi 2 onto his board, which is going to stabilize his front line. Like, now it is actually really reasonable for him to push levels. And like I said, that's so much what this patch is about. Sometimes you just have to roll out on 8, but when you're in a spot like this, we already have the Riven 2, we already have the Alawi 2, we already have Zyra 2. These aren't units that are going to stay on our board long term, but these are units that will stabilize our board for now, where we're actually going to beat boards where, like, say we fight somebody with a bunch of like 1-star 4 costs on their board, like somebody like this. Actually, this fight is very winnable, as you can see, even though this person full pivoted on 8. They're playing around Ashe. I think so much about this patch. Pakigam actually said this in an interview that Kai did when we were co-streaming the last cup. But you know, he was talking about the previous patch because this was the last patch. But I think it's still so relevant. This patch is that a lot of this patch is actually not about 4 costs, even though it is a 4 cost patch. Like, it's objectively a 4 cost patch. There's so many 4 cost comps that you want to play, but a lot of the patch is actually how you stabilize around 3 costs and 2 costs even. You can see with the Zyra and the Riven 2 here and the Lux 2 here, getting those upgrades early and being able to play those on 8 can allow you to just go 9, almost skipping 8 like we did here, where we just rolled a teeny tiny. Did we roll it all at 8 actually? I don't think we rolled a single time at 8. But there are even some spots where, you know, say you're 20, you're like 40 gold, you roll down to like 30 gold or 20 gold, you get a good enough board, and then you use that to push levels. Also, speaking of pushing levels, this guy we're fighting, okay, not speaking of pushing levels, they have a Kha'Zix 3 on their board. That's itemized. That's pretty sick. And they're win streaking with it. That is wild. Speaking of wild, okay, I'm going to stop doing these transitions. But we hit a Hwei and a Rakan in our shop, and this might be, yeah, I think this is Jazlatte's sign that he's going to start pivoting the board already into getting towards our level 9 board. We can throw the Hwei into the board. He holds these items perfectly. Like I was talking about, he was the ideal holder of that Morello when we slammed it right at the start. Obviously, Morgana's like the one that you live with a lot of the time, but Hwei's a monster with this Morello. As you can see, killed so many units on the backline, and that's just a Hwei 1. And the other big thing is that we can start duping. 62 HP here. We want to ideally make it like 5 rounds so that we could duplicate a 5 cost. Maybe 4 rounds so that we duplicate like a 4 cost like this Galio 2 or something. But we want to make it to enough rounds that we can actually duplicate. And Jazlatte says at 62 HP with a good enough board here, I am just going to trust that I can make it, which I love out of him. We also have the duplicator still. So, you know, like, we can use that to potentially make like a Hwei 2 or a Rakan 2, and that can stabilize our board. Also, we got dropped a full spark, so gone are the possible downsides of not hitting our Marshred this game. It's right there. It's onto the Amumu. The only downside is we'd probably prefer a static Shiv a bit in this because we want Hwei's going to be hitting backline a lot. But yeah, look at this Hwei. The work that this Hwei does. Also, the person we're fighting has Fortune in, which is kind of insane. We're about to see a big pivot here, so let's actually slow it down to 1x speed, because I think this is something that people like to do. When there's a big pivot like this, you guys like when I slow it down a little bit so we can see the pivot not just like blaze through it immediately. So I love this. He's selling some of his units. He's very confident in his ability to pivot with not an insane amount of gold, but he's got the Galio pair. He's got the Lee Sin pair as well. Just gets in the 4 Dragon Lord immediately. Now we're going to start rolling. Doesn't want the Zyra. Wants the Irelia here as just, you know, a solid unit. Also as as Story Weaver gets a really a pair here, which is fantastic. He actually wants to hold on to the set here, gets Wukong in. You'd really love to fit Soraka on this board, but the question is where. You'd have to fit it over one of these Dragon Lord type units. And that's going to be the end of the roll down, okay? So, I mean, I really like how he played that out. One thing that I've been trying to do more recently is not roll too quickly in spots like this. You know, consider your outs. But Jazlatte, I think, did this really, really well. He had an idea immediately. As you saw when he put the stuff in the team builder, he knew what he was going for in this roll down, picked up the Irelias, picked up the Lee Sins, and he's just playing this like Dragon Lord Irelia plus Hwei board, which looks fantastic. We are sitting here on this Irelia, hoping to duplicate her. He'd love to get into the other version of the board where you frontline the Ornn plus the Udyr here. It's just a little bit far off, and he does end up actually getting Soraka in over Janna for a second, and then he thinks better of it. Yeah, it's actually a really, really tough decision, and I think this shop makes him not want to hold it anymore because he wants to be able to sell Soraka for money, and Soraka's usually actually not going to end up on our late game board, especially with the changes to Heavenly. You know, just Soraka buffing our whole team is not as good as it used to be, and you'd even, like, prior to this patch, you saw more people moving away from Soraka as a way of capping out your 9 boards and more into stuff like this. We're playing around Udyr, playing around Ornn, that like little package of units. Also fits with Invoker, which is really, really nice on a late game board like this. Speaking of really, really nice, okay, I'm sorry, but I mean, that's actually a pretty good pivot. We get an Irelia 2 off Carousel here. This is huge, and we still have our duplicate to use. My god, and we hit the Zyra Fast 2 here. So, oh, I love this play, by the way, from Jazlatte. This is a cute little tech that you can do with a duplicator. We don't have the second Hwei, but it doesn't matter. We have a duplicator. Use that on our Hwei on board. Use that Hwei as the unit that is duplicated. I heard this tech once from my Twitch chat. They're like, oh, you could have duplicated this unit. I was like, oh, that's actually like genius mode, that you duplicate the Hwei and then use Hwei to duplicate the other Hwei, which is really, really cool. That's going to be Hwei 2, and basically everything 2-starred on here. You also saw that he kind of gave up on the Udyr idea. I mean, it is the more capped version of the board, but it's just going to be so hard to get to here. So I absolutely don't blame him for selling off that Udyr pair. We had to sell to pick up the Rakan 2, and I think it makes perfect sense. But yeah, now we're onto an insanely strong version of the board, using Galio is just a solid tank, and then the kind of duo carry of Rakan plus Hwei, and then Irelia just sitting in the back doing a little bit of damage. You know, she's not bad as a sort of secondary carry. We end up actually losing to this Ashe board that is apparently insanely capped. I'm actually quite surprised that we lost that fight. I'd have to look at their board again because they weren't level 10, they were level 9, and they're playing around 4 costs. Usually, board where you're playing around 5 costs should win, but TFT's a game. TFT's a game. It's kind of interesting right now. I feel like 4-cost boards are so strong that if you don't hit the perfect 5-cost board in a spot like this, you can actually lose. I love Archangels onto Rakan here. It's either Archangels or Nashor's Tooth here. Archangels just gives him that AP that he actually needs to do some damage, whereas Nashor's just going to keep him casting as sort of like utility, and we kind of need Rakan to be doing damage here because Hwei on his own is really not enough damage, especially for some of the more tanky units. But yeah, Rakan up here gets 1 cast off. I'm kind of surprised for this frontline Rakan positioning that Jazlatte is going for here, because like Rakan got decently targeted in that fight and we ended up losing it. Maybe it's an idea of like, you know, he's a not quite a melee unit, but he can benefit from taking aggro so that he can get a cast off. He also has the Crown Guard that protects him a little bit. And maybe the other idea is that we kind of like want him to take like a little bit of aggro just to give our front line a little bit more beef, but it is kind of scary, I would say, allowing Rakan to take aggro like this. Speaking of aggro, there's a Lissandra that's on our Rakan. The upside is just a Liss 1, so she throws him across the board, but he's so healthy here. And yeah, this board that we're fighting, I feel like they just lack the damage to get through all of our units. They just aren't capped enough, so this is going to be an easy dub for us. We're going to take them down, which means I think we're in top 4? Yep, top 4, even top 3, actually. And so the only person we have to worry about is this guy who is super win streaking. Is this the Diana one that cleaves components? I mean, it looks like we're not going to use that. Okay, so yeah, it's this. Oh, and that's why that Ashe board was so strong, because they had got to 2-star 5 cost in the Azir that was on their board. They also have a Lissandra on their board. I didn't see if it was 2-starred there, but yeah, certainly a little bit scary. We're gonna fight this board again, the Heavenly Lee Sin plus Kayn board. Upside this time, our Rakan isn't getting jumped on so hard. Though, my God, they just burst through our front line, man. This sport is crazy. I mean, look at their augments, by the way. Just look. Their augments were Heavenly +1, Little Buddies, and Not Today. I feel like those are like hand-picked augments for that comp. So I guess in hindsight, looking at that, you can not be too surprised at the result there. One more fight potentially. Jazlatte is just gonna roll it down here on level 9, hoping, I don't know, 3-star 5 cost somehow. I mean, it seems pretty hard to hit in this spot. Yeah, just sends it here, sells his entire board here, looking for 3-star Rakan. We're pretty far off from it, but I love going for it from Jazlatte. He says there's no shot I'm winning this fight. Might as well. What if I'm a Giga High Roller and I hit? Really fun game from Jazlatte. Really solid, just TFT. Good to see from one of the best in the world at TFT. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Twitch and all my other links down below. Also, like I said earlier in the video, if you know how to make a Bilibili account or something like that as an American, because like, yeah, because it wants me to send in a picture of my ID. That's kind of sus. Okay, but if you have any info about that, like DM me or comment or something. Okay, bye.